Hello, I'm Pastor Andrew. This is Theology Thursday. On occasion, a question comes up regarding the age of the disciples. Simply, how old were they when they followed Jesus? When Jesus came up to them and said, "Follow me," what was their age? It seems like such a human question. Sometimes we don't consider that human part of their stories. I invite you to join me today as we do consider that here on Theology Thursday. Thanks for joining me. So how old were Peter, James, John, Andrew, and the rest of the disciples when Jesus called to them and said, "Follow me"? Hope this doesn't disappoint you, but the answer is we simply don't know. Scriptures are pretty quiet on the topic. We can infer, based from their vocation, them being fishermen and other hard labor vocations, that most likely they were younger, in their 20s and 30s. We can also draw from Jewish culture and the fact that at the age of 30, a man was considered to be mature enough to preach and teach in public. All right, and it was kind of the minimum requirement for any sort of public authority was 30. So you put those two together, and we kind of deduce that the disciples must have been in their late 20s or early 30s when Jesus first called them. Now, an interesting note to the age of the disciples, it's kind of outside of that question, and broadening it out to, let's say, the age of individuals in the New Testament, specifically Timothy and Titus. There's a fascinating passage of scripture from 1 Timothy 4:12 where St. Paul speaks of Timothy's youth. And again, based upon Jewish culture and this understanding of the term youth or young man, and knowing that in this case, Timothy was already a pastor, was already a leader within his church, was preaching and teaching the gospel, kind of putting one and one together loosely, we can kind of figure that Timothy was probably in his early 30s. The fact that he has some authority and some teaching, and St. Paul is, if you will, validating that, but also saying that he is still young, so let no one look down upon you because you are still young. We can kind of figure out that Timothy was probably in his early 30s at this point. But again, we simply don't know. Something to consider, though, is life expectancy. It was very uncommon for individuals to live very long lives, especially during this time. The Apostle John lived longer than all the other disciples. But even still, his call, if you will, to be a disciple of Jesus probably happened around the same age as the rest of the disciples. So, thank you for joining me today on Theology Thursday. We'll see you next week with another interesting bit of theology for you to consider. Take care.